Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson joins us now, and he, too, is praying for our troops. First of all, Senator, just big picture, where do you think we are in the course of this current campaign dealing with Iran?
Well, Charlie, I think right now the main objective is to degrade Iran's ability to destroy targets within the region, and certainly degrade their ability to continue to clog up the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm sure what President Trump is trying to do is degrade it to a point where our allies will figure out it's not as risky as they're assessing it is right now, and they will come and start escorting ships so we can open up Strait of Hormuz. I mean, that's crucial we do so. I think it's also crucial that we can't let this job undone. Leaving the Iranian regime standing, not completely weakened, certainly threatened by the Iranian people to have it taken over, I think would be a mistake. But the greatest hope I have there is reports I'm reading where Iranians themselves are calling in airstrikes to their leaders, and the leaders are running scared. They're hiding in tents. They don't know where to run. I think President Trump's probably right. We're getting down to the third layer of leadership. Now, they've got a lot of layers. They've got a lot of people in the IRGC and the Basij, and these people are brutal. I mean, they executed 30 to 40,000 of their own citizens, just hung some, young people, a top-flight wrestler. I mean, it's grotesque what these people are doing. That's why we can't allow them to stay in power.
Truly. Well, if you wind up with a much degraded regime, but that degraded regime remains in power and the Strait of Hormuz opens up, would that be considered a success in your mind?
Probably, as long as we retain the right and ability to continue to degrade further leadership and make sure that they can never reconstitute their missile manufacturing capability, their drone capabilities, and never reconstitute their nuclear enrichment.
So going forward, it would just sort of perhaps require some maintenance going on into the future. I want to ask you about something about this notion of President Trump sending in troops or doing whatever he has to do to take Karg Island. Is there any concern on your part about trying to negotiate rationally with whoever remains in leadership in Iran, that they're not really rational people, and the idea that you would seize control of Karg Island wouldn't necessarily mean that the Strait of Hormuz would open up?
It depends on how many layers you get down in terms of leadership to actually find some rational leaders, or have more of the Iranian citizenry take over, the government. So it's hard to predict right now. Right now, the current leadership, the ones that were in place before this, you could not negotiate with them. Right. 47 years they're at war with us. All they had to do was say they were not going to pursue nuclear weapons, open themselves up to inspections. If they had nuclear power by the rods, that's all they had to do. We would have left them alone. They didn't do that. They were the world's largest state sponsor of terror. And now the world knows exactly what a menace Iran is and was, and we got to take them out.
So the Department of War has come to Congress to ask for $200 billion more to pay for this. What do you see happening with that request in Congress?
Well, no doubt about it, the defense of our nation is a top priority government. I'll want to scrutinize why they need $200 billion. And from my standpoint, when we've gone from $4.4 to $7.4 trillion, you have estimates of somewhere between $700 billion to $1 trillion of fraud per year. We ought to be able to enact some programs to eliminate that fraud to pay for the $200 billion.
Senator Ron Johnson, thank you so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.